Hi, I'm Joshua Finn. Today we're going to build the flip-flop. Pretty cool, eh? Especially if I get my finger out of the way. This is a 1/8A or Micromax powered since Quest is manufactures the only engines available for these. So it's a Micromax powered 1/8A rocket glider. It's designed for NAR competition or sport flying, whatever you like to do. So we'll build this out from a kit. What I want to express before we get started is this is a very small aircraft. It is powered by these little bitty engines. That looks like it's about the size of a regular firecracker. And I want you to bear in mind that looks like a firecracker or the little bitty bottle rockets. This has probably 5 times the power of a bottle rocket and many more times the power than a firecracker. So please respect these as the fact that they are a production rocket motor. They do have fairly limited power availability, 0.8 pounds of peak thrust for I think 0.3 seconds. So you need to build this aircraft as lightly and as carefully as possible. I'm going to go fairly quickly in the build. But you need to pay close attention, take your time with it, and you'll get a very nice flying aircraft. So let's get started by having a look inside the kit. And that's probably about the last time you will see my face here, because this is a small and very detailed build. So let's slide everything out of here. There we go. Inside your kit packet and whatnot, there are patterns and everything, so if anything is broken or needs to be replaced in flying and whatnot, you'll have that. So this is your fuselage. It's made from a 1/8 inch balsa. I'll set that there. This is your wing. Is it 1/8 or 3/32? 3/32, sorry. The wing is made from 1/16. This should be fairly light balsa. These are your tail surfaces from fairly light 1/32, so be very careful. These are kind of fragile. Everything on this airplane is, but particularly the tail surfaces. This is a piece of material for making your hinges for your wings. These are all your little plywood fittings that will go on the aircraft. This is a gauge for making a little wing trigger mechanism, which is this part right here. Should you run into any problems with getting it sized correctly, you'll have that there. This is some clay ballast for balancing the aircraft should you need to. Mine did not require any ballast, and the CG on these is fairly forgiving. A little piece of Kevlar thread for binding everything together. Now we get into the really tiny parts that you need to pay close attention to. And notice that some of those can slide inside each other. This tiny little piece right here is a carbon tube that is for limiting your wing travel. Here is your wing trigger mechanism. These 2 little tubes here are for forming the wing axle and the wing retainer. This is the wing axle itself. And then you've got 2 little pieces of 1/16 aluminum tubing. One is the tunnel for the wing trigger, and the other is the inner axle for your wing. You've got a launch lug, and then you've got a, I believe this is it depends who you get them from. I think Fliskett's, it's a T2.5 nose cone and 2.5 body tube, something like that. Or Quest will just sell you the motor tube and nose cones. So it depends on which vendor you're looking at. So we're going to slide all of these items back in their baggie so that we don't lose them, because we're not going to use them at first. First we're going to start off on some other items. So I'll get back to that in just a second. We are going to start by building out the wing. I want to show you this so that you're aware. This is the top of your wing, and this little notch goes over on this side. So we see this right here. We've arranged these the same. So this is the top. I am now going to remove the wing from its little cover sheet And in order to maintain that orientation, because it's very, very important, this airplane will not work correctly without this orientation. We're going to just keep the wing like so. And now we're going to ensure that we maintain that by going ahead and planing our airfoil in this wing. Now, the airfoil is not super critical in terms of glide performance, but this gives you an opportunity to remove some material from the airplane and get it lighter. The lighter this airplane is, the higher it will launch. With some rocket-powered models, there's an optimal weight. With the Micromax motors having a less than 1 second delay, the optimum weight is as light as you can possibly get it, because for a lot of these, the optimal delay would be much longer than that, so you just want to get the aircraft to go as fast as possible. And I'm going to have to fix mine because I just planed through it, so that's your warning to pay close attention. So we're going to go off camera, I'm going to fix that, and then we'll be right back. Alright, continuing on, we're going to plane the leading edge a little bit. Be careful not to do what I did on the other side. And we'll make one more pass going the other way. And then we'll come in and we'll make a single pass along the bottom here. And then I'll find a sanding block and we'll just gently sand this guy down. If you have a nice sharp blade on your razor plane, like what I do, this is a very quick task because we've got fairly good quality balsa here and very sharp blades, so we don't leave a lot of fuzz. Now, sometimes, no matter how hard we work on quality control and whatnot, you can't predict exactly what the grain of the wood is going to do, and sometimes you'll still get fuzzies and gouges and whatnot that you'll need to sand out. So please bear that in mind. We try to regulate the wood quality as best we can, but sometimes the tree just grew some weird way. And as long as you're patient with it, you can still make a very good airplane out of it. And with that, we're done sanding the wing. Next task is we're going to flip the wing over, and we're going to go ahead and install a couple of the parts on the wing. And these will just help us make sure we maintain the correct orientation and whatnot. So we have this plywood part right here, and you'll flip it over so that the two holes on this wing line up. And that's why. There we go. The little plug in it was still there. So now I should be able to sight through these. And so you end up with this setup. Let me flip it around like so. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a very, very limited amount of glue on here. This is thin CA that just soaks in real good. Be careful using thin CA. I actually, in some ways, would recommend against it on this model in that it works very quickly, so you don't have a lot of time to react. But then we've got the glue in place, and we will add this little circular piece. And it just goes across here. I would orient the, I don't know if it shows real well, but I'm orienting the primary grain opposite the other piece. Because this 1/64 ply, it's made from 3 layers, so 2 are going the same direction and 1 is going across. So this just gives you something that's a little more warp resistant. And now we'll just douse a little bit of glue in there. And that is secure. Alright, let me go get my saw and we'll cut these wing panels apart and we'll go ahead and hinge them. Alright, so what we do is we line this up. Remember, all the plywood parts are on the bottom. We're just going to gently break that loose. And I'll show you the one side, we'll do the other in just a second. So what I'm doing is, if you notice, I'm kind of beveling this. You can bevel it beyond what the dihedral angle is going to be because you have some plywood limiters which will be what actually sets the dihedral angle on this airplane. A lot of people try to use the beveling to set that on these hinged wings, and over time it fatigues, crushes in. So having the plywood limiters greatly improves the accuracy there. So now you have all 3 of these pieces. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a pair of scissors. We're going to cut this a little bit oversized and make 2 of these pieces. And those go in like so. Now we're going to take this wing and all together we're going to flip it over. So we'll do this. This is an adhesive called Balsa-Rite. There are several others. SIG makes something called Stix-It. You can use like Butrite model airplane dope. There are a variety of options. Just pick one of those and go with it. It's what you're going to use to attach this covering material. So what we're going to do, we'll dip some of this on here, and mine has rust in the can. And that means that it is going on dark like this. If you buy a new can of Balsa-Rite, it will not look ugly like that. And so what I'm doing is I'm just trying to tack this down in this material, and it takes a few minutes to dry. So give it, be patient with it, that it will do that. And what I'm trying to do here is seal it both on the surface that it's mating to, and then soak the adhesive through as well. And that just gives you that much better of a seal here. On a small model like this, it's not a big deal. On our Carbonette series, we have had these peel off if you don't seal the top surface as well. And there we go. And I got that one just right. The hinge is exactly the right length. Now we're going to go over here and we'll do the same thing on this side. I'll be right back after we're finished with this one. Okay, while we flip the wing over, things are mostly dry, but we don't want to mess with that until it's a little more secure. So we're going to work on the fuselage in the meantime. And so I'm just going to cut this out. This one didn't laser through completely all the way. There we go. Now, you'll notice on this fuselage there are these marks, and those are for your wing axle. And there's several ways you can do that. You can actually cut this apart and install the wing axle. What I'm going to do here is something slightly different. I'm going to attempt to do something slightly different. There we go. I'm going to fish my little wing axle out of its baggie here. And that's this piece. Little one with the elbow on the end. And I'm going to take this and I am just going to use it like a straight pin. And I'm going to press it through the fuselage here. It will be fairly well centered up in between those notches. And then I get it sticking out straight out as much as possible. And make sure everything looks fairly straight on that. And now, oh, it slipped. There we go. Now I'm going to hit it from the bottom with some thin CA. And it is secure. Now, since you've got all those cuts and slots and all that in there, that part is a little weakened. So we address that by putting these plywood stiffeners, which are these pieces, on here. This one's got a little bit of stuff that stayed behind. And we'll simply glue this on so that it meets the profile of the fuselage with a little hump over the top. And then, well, I have worked on this airplane. I have glued myself to it once, so hopefully I won't do that again, but I probably will. We'll be back after we get the one on the other side. Okay, so we're back. We have this part all mounted in place, and now what we're going to do is with this part oriented in this manner. So look how I've got it here. I'm going to take this piece that's got the little hook shape in it, just like the hook shape that you had on your wing right here. I'm going to sand the little burr off of it. And that one over there. And the hook faces forward this way. So we simply drop this guy in this slot, so you see how it looks. And now we'll come up here and we'll just hit it with a dab of glue. And so that part is secure. Now at this point, my wing is mostly dried, so we see that we have the wing come up like so. It'll fold under like that for launch. And we have these little hook-looking pieces like so. So we're going to pop one of these out. It's this piece. It looks like so. And we're going to turn it around this way so that the little part here sticks out. So the little part on the bottom is pointed down. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to lower it in place just like that. And now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So we see the orientation of this part, like so. I'm going to bring it down here, and I'm going to just drop it straight into that slot on the wing. And now I will hit both of those with CA. And they are now secure. Now you'll see that we have these pieces. So I'm going to take this one. You see the orientation I have, so you've got the little hook coming out and the little part that comes down. I'm going to take that, so I'm not changing the orientation of it in any way. I'm just dropping it straight into this wing. I know this seems kind of tiny, tedious, and so on, but the orientation of these is absolutely critical to get this aircraft to work correctly. Now I'm going to break the other one out. And you see the orientation of it. I'm going to take it over here, not changing, not rotating it in my hand or anything. I am just dropping it straight. Oop. It's trying to stick to me because it's got a little burr on it. And I literally pulled it out of the slot. There we go. A little tiny bit more glue. There we go. Alright, so that is secured, and it is also glued to the wax paper. Well, at least we know the glue went all the way through. Alright, so everything folds around as it should. Now, this slot right here has your hinge material in it, so take a razor blade in here and just get that stuff out of there. And that should take care of that problem, because what's going to happen is your wing trigger engages in that slot. Oh, there we go, right there. Sorry for going off camera frame. Now, take this rubber band, which I forgot to mention in the intro part. You're going to make a pair of little teeny tiny rubber bands. Now, when you're storing this model, you want to store it so the rubber bands are not on there, because that puts undue stress on it. So you see how I run the rubber band from this notch over around, and it snaps like so. And we'll repeat that for the other side. I'll be back in just a minute. Alright, now you need to be very, very careful, because we're going to basically spill out a whole bunch of pieces here, because we've got to get to them. I left a little carbon one in there. We'll deal with that later. So take one of these aluminum eyelets. Slide the thinner tube through it, like so. Drop that guy into the center line. We want this to be fairly straight up and down. I'm going to very carefully get that about right, and I'm going to slide this tube out. Actually, no, I'm not, because I'm not going to be able to get it out and keep the orientation correct. So, optimally, you would wax that thinner tube there. As it is, I can't, so got it out before the glue set, and there we go. So that is in place, and it is secure. If you feel any concern about it coming loose, hit it with a touch more glue, like so. And I'm going to have to hit that with an accelerator because it is not wanting to harden up the rest of the way. There we go. Okay, so that's secure, filleted around. Now take your aluminum, your thin aluminum sleeve and slide it on like that. And now take the wing on here and drop it through. And now take that other same size thing, the tube is what you put in the wing, and slide it in. And if you notice, the 1/16 tubing pokes out a little over the top. We don't want that, so we're going to slide it out. And we are going to take this thin little tube, we're going to sand it down. Because you want to sand it until it does not protrude out the top. And you'll understand why in just a second here. The entire design of this airplane is predicated around keeping you from having to glue anything after that one step there. Alright, so now it's sunken down inside a little bit. So it's safe and secure and so on. And so my wing is fairly steady in its mounting. So this is the important part. This is very important. I'm going to grab this piece of wire. I'm going to press down so I am flush against that tube. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to bend that thing over. And it should bend over enough that that tube actually has a little bit of crimping in it. And now this rocks a little bit, but it's enough that with the generous incidents we've got in the tail, you're going to be good. Now, come over here, so we're going to rotate, so you see the orientation, I'm going to rotate the wing around this way. I'm going to set it down. And I'm going to take this carbon tube out, the little tiny black piece. I'm going to stick it in, get it as straight up and down as I can. I'm going to hit it with some CA until it stays put. Apologies for the goings-on in the background. It's about to be mealtime in the Finn household. Alright. So what that does is that limits your wing travel, like so. Because at this point, once I hit that with some accelerator, and a piece of wood with which to do so, now, we've got that oriented correctly, and all we have to do is make ourselves a little rubber band, and you'll understand how the deployment mechanism on here works. So I'm going to cut the tails on this a little long in case I didn't size it correctly. So I hook that across like so, and it locks in. So you can see my wing rotates around like so. So if I fold my wings over, I can now rotate this mechanism around like so, and if I just let go, it snaps out. And I just want as little tension as is necessary to get that around, because this will cause your fuselage to bend somewhat. Alright, be back in 1 second. Okay, next step. I'm going to take my fuselage tube and I'm simply going to mount it on here. So we'll put this in place. I'm just running thin CA today, so I'm having to hold everything in place as I glue it, because this stuff hardens almost instantaneously. And the alignment of this tube, you should try to get it fairly well lined up, but it's not super critical. As long as it's within about 5 degrees, you're fine. And at this point our wing is wanting to run around and all that jazz, but we're secure here. Now I have to bring in the other airplane and look at this. So as viewed from this angle, that tube goes on this side. So we are going to bring in this tube. I'm going to set it out here, have it extend slightly beyond the front of the fuselage, like that. So if you see, right here is how far I have it back. Now you do not want to get any glue inside that tube. So I would actually recommend, I'm doing this because it's what I've got out on the bench, but if you can use like thick CA or something of that nature, that would be a much better material with which to secure that, that bearing. And let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and put the launch plug on top of the fuselage, or the body tube I should say. So if you notice, I sand an area on here so that the CA will have something to kind of bite into. Alignment of the launch lug also not super critical, if I can keep from peeling it. And now the launch lug is up there. So it actually sits technically on the bottom of the aircraft. Now take your little wing trigger, which is this mechanism right here, and we're going to slide it in from the back, like so. And it actually sits up like that. And find your nose cone, slide it in place. Now we're going to lock the wing back. We're going to attempt to lock the wing back. Oh, there we go. And so we fit this guy into that slot like so. You see that it's locked the wing in place. And with it all the way at the back of that slot, we want to make sure that we have about 1/8 of an inch onto the nose cone before our bend. So right here like this, roughly. I'm going to take this and I'm going to just bend it straight down, and it's going to gouge into the nose cone, and that's okay, because I am going to actually press it into the nose cone like that. Now take your Kevlar thread here and slide that under that wire, out, losing track of it, there we go, out over the nose cone. And just something to hold it down, because we're going to bind it in place here. It only takes a couple of wraps. Now we're going to hit this with a tiny drop of the CA to secure it. I'm going to cut off my excess. I'm going to attempt to cut off my excess. There we go. Slide it free. Secure it around the rest of the way. And now one very important part, stop that, is the back of your nose cone right here. Hit that with a dab of CA. And that prevents the ejection charge from eroding in there and burning that away. Alright, so once again, we're almost done. All we're going to have to do after this is put our tail surfaces on. Slide my nose cone in, which you'll want to sand this so it slides in freely, because right now it doesn't. Alright, so we've got that mechanism in place. I found that cute little rubber band I made just a minute ago. I'll lay it, maybe, there we go. I'll lay it on there. Now I'm going to hold this down here so I'm clear of everything, and I'm going to test the operation, which, like I said, you got to sand that nose cone, but when it comes free, wing pops open. I'm just going to try squeezing this because it's made from fairly soft wood. We'll see if that'll make it slide in and out better. There we go. There we go. Alright, so be back in one moment. Alright, so we've got our tail surfaces here. I'm just going to pop these out. And with the airplane oriented this way, the stab goes on the bottom. You have a couple of little alignment marks. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but get it on there like so. Do not get glue on your rubber band. It will not be good for it. And we include enough of that rubber for you to make more rubber bands in the future, because those do not last forever. If you want to get the rubber bands to last the maximum amount of time, store them in a freezer or a refrigerator when the airplane's in storage. Alright, so I've got my stab on there, and now get that little burr off. It does not matter which side the rudder is on, but you're just going to mount it on the side like so, without the baggie stuck to your plane. And there we go. All right, and with that, the airplane's done. You cannot really... Where's the spent casing? Here we go. You can't trim this airplane for a glide without the casing in there, because it's designed to fly with that engine casing. But the CG should be right around this point on it. And the way to test this out is to just do a quick test glide with it. So, got our airplane right there. I'm going to try to do this left-handed. So I'm going to pick it up, maybe. And now we're going to toss it. And you see it nosedives. So we look at it and we see, I don't know if you can tell, but the stab has a warp in it. So I'm going to bend that side up a little bit. And now we'll check again. Still a little nose heavy. So I'm going to do that same thing to the other side. So now you see it's bent up just a little bit. I can see part of the problem is, if you notice, I didn't get things tight enough there, so the wing's angled down a little. Alright, let's try one more time. There we go. And you see it glides absolutely perfectly after you do that. So this airplane's very easy to trim. And we'll just crash it into a chair somewhere or something. Ka-dunk. Okay. So, I'll show you one more thing, and then we'll sign off. So, be right back. Okay, so we've got this airplane assembled. If you notice, I squirted just a little bit of paint on the other one. You want just enough color that you can see the airplane in the grass and no more. And you can use paint. You don't have to use Sharpies or whatever, but important thing right here is, at this point, we can take our wings, we can fold those over like we showed you before. We rotate with the wings carefully up there. You have to have the nose cone out. Sorry, nose cone's gotten stuffed back in. So with the nose cone out, dangling, fold our wings up, rotate them, and then rotate this around so that the nose cone goes in, so that the wire goes into its little notch, and it fits in place. And you'll see the wing has a tendency to kind of shift off. You can see it's rotated over, it's not perfectly oriented, and that's fine. The important thing is, engine is loaded in. I've friction fitted it with tape so it won't come out. You set this up on a launch pad just like any of our other rocket gliders. Make sure that your wires, when they come in, can't fall down and cut the tail off as it launches. That's the only real concern. This will take up to a 1/8 inch launch rod. I recommend something thinner if you can get it, just to minimize friction going up. Keep your launch rod lubricated. And then at ejection, the nose cone pops forward and out it comes. It looks like that. So, questions, comments, put them in the comments section below. We'll see you later. Thank you.